Shoulder pads at the ready. Today we're talking the big trends of 2009. Our fashion editor Jessica Michault is here to cast an eye back over the year in fashion. Welcome to Sponsor Cat once again. Now, I guess you're going to be starting with talking about the 80s hitting the catwalks.
Yes, that's right. This year that was the biggest trend. I mean, fashion lovers love to design things that looking forward and cutting edge designs, but this year they also looked back in time and brought forward the strongest trends of the 1980s and reinterpreted it for new generations, not just showing, the big shoulder pads, but also a bit of day-glow and a bit of fingerless gloves as well in there. So I think we're going to take a look at some of those amazing strong moments of the 80s in the collections this year.
And there you go, shoulder pads and day-glow dresses, but they can't really take the focus completely over this year, which was shrouded a little bit by the credit crunch, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The entire fashion industry was affected. Everything from the textile companies trying to produce collections but actually not having money to do it, to fashion houses struggling to stay alive, some of them not being able to do that, to even the glossy magazines that cover the fashion shows cutting back on the staff that go to the shows, cutting back expenses across the board, and still a number of the major glossies folded this year because of the credit crunch. Everyone in the industry has really had to rethink their strategy looking forward and really, tighten those fashionable belts. We talked to Bernard Arnault at the beginning of 2009 in January about what his strategy for LVMH would be for this year.
This crisis will last for most of 2009, maybe the entire year. But the problem for companies like LVMH is how to prepare for the post-crisis period and how, during the crisis, to gain market share. That is our aim, to gain market share. We did it during previous times of crisis, and I think we'll do it again.
Well, some have survived, but some haven't been so lucky, like the big French name, Christian Lacroix.
I feel really sad, especially for all these people that work for him. All the craftsmen and women, the seamstresses. When it comes to luxury, people don't really feel sorry. But it's actually exactly the same as if it were Molinex or Michelin.
Fashion today has to be embodied by people with personality, and I think we're all here to tell him that we love him, that we want him to keep working, and that we support him.
It's the quintessence of what we love, of what I love, of what I think the customers love. In case something happens and a white knight comes by, and we can make our collection.
God has not given him a destiny like that, for it to end this way. An Arabic proverb says, "Who tells you that it's misfortune?"
Yes, those are images of Christian Lacroix's last show, an haute couture show in July of this year. It was really sad to see all of that black on the runway, as he's so famous for his color, and it was really only the remnants that he had left in his atelier that he could use to recreate that collection.
That's leftovers.
His leftovers to create that collection, and it was also bittersweet because it was such a wearable collection, and that was something that Christian really struggled with throughout his career. And so for the last 6 months, the fashion world has really waited with bated breath to see if some white knight, as he said, would come along and rescue the house. But unfortunately, the house, it was announced earlier this month, has not found any viable suitors to take up the house and make it a live again. So it's had to shut its doors, and Christian Lacroix, the maison, is no more. So we're quite sad about that.
So what's going to happen to the designer himself? What happens to a designer when he goes out of business?
Well, you know what? I think Christian's going to land on his feet. He's quite a creative and a creative man. But we caught him on camera last week, and we asked him that exact question.
Well, it's not really for me, more for people who work with me. I do theatre, I do hotels, and it's all going well. And the house is going to come back, you'll see. Because I think that the people who work for me don't deserve what has happened. And I believe in justice.
Well, as you can see, Christian Lacroix, the man, is going to be fine. In fact, he's already got a whole bunch of new followers, 20,000 of them actually, as he's just announced he's designed the uniforms for the French railway system, SNCF. So those will be launched in January. So he's going to be fine, but unfortunately all the people who work at his house are out of a job. So.
Not him though, but that's not surprising. Okay, well, what steps has the fashion industry made to try and counteract the effects of this crisis?
Well, really, the fashion industry has taken the battle to the web. They've used social media, bloggers, Twitter, Facebook to really connect, make a one-on-one connection almost with their clientele. Designers really, in this last collections, showed how they could use social media to their benefit, and it was really quite cost-effective. So you'd have designers twittering from backstage. We had live feeds on the web of fashion shows like Alexander McQueen and Louis Vuitton, and we even had fashion bloggers in the front row of fashion shows like Dolce & Gabbana. Here you can see actually the Alexander McQueen show running, which was live on the web and live. Of course, you were sitting there in the front row. But there's no longer a monologue happening with the brands talking and telling its clientele what they need to know. It's a real conversation between the clients and the brands. The clients saying what they want and the brands really listening now.
That's good though, isn't it? Being able to have a bit of feedback.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, what about the celebrity side of fashion? Celebrities taking a bigger part than ever in fashion now.
Yes, that was actually quite the big scandal of the fashion year. We're used to seeing fashion designers and fashion stars sitting in the front row, but now we have Lindsay Lohan running Emmanuel Ungaro. It was a shock when the house announced at the beginning of this year that their designer was leaving and that they were hiring Lindsay Lohan, this troubled young Hollywood star, to come and design their ready-to-wear collection with a young Spanish designer who no one had actually really heard of before. So that was quite a shock, but really the idea behind the choice by the CEO, Maria Mufarij, was to try and generate a new buzz for the house, which had been really floating adrift since the creator of the house itself, Emmanuel Ungaro, retired in 2005. But the results of Lindsay's first outing as a fashion designer were less than stellar. It was absolutely decimated by the press, both online and on the web and on print. But Lindsay Lohan has a contract for 3 years, so I'm really looking forward to what she comes up with next season. Unfortunately, Mufarij himself has fallen victim to his idea. With all that bad press, he's been asked to leave the company.
Well, we can't end this fashion special without talking about the trends for next year. What are we all going to be wearing?
Well, not much, really, actually. The fashion world, once again, has kind of gotten the energy and the feelings and the emotion in the air that we're seeing around the world. The buzzword in the business world and the buzzword on the World Wide Web is transparency. And so next year, there will be quite a lot of that on the runway. We're going to be seeing lots of lingerie, lots of filmy, lacy underwear, and see-through clothing. So, get out your gym card membership for next year, Eve, because you're going to need to keep in shape for these collections.
I'm not sure I'll be allowed to wear it here on France 24, though, I've got to tell you. But I'm looking forward to seeing you wearing it because you are a fashion guru. Okay, thanks Jessica very much for coming in and telling us about last year's and what to hope for next year. There you go for the year in fashion. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.